Hey y'all, it's Heather. I'm a certified arborist in Bloomington, Indiana. And today I'd like to wish you a happy October. As much as I say I don't like to be here, we are here. So the first thing I was going to talk about today was some books. I know a lot of people do things online, and I think a lot of these books, yeah, you can get these online. But as much as uh, there's good information out there, there's also some bad information out there. And so I just thought I'd share some resources that I found that really helped me learn how to take care of trees and plants and kind of how to think about ecosystems as a whole. Um, okay. The first book I picked out, we can't talk about yet because the neighbor's cat is sitting on it. Okay, so the first book. Ouch! Will you stop? Come on, us. Okay, sorry. Anyway, so uh, one thing that is helpful for whatever state you live in, find a good source for learning the plants that should be in your state or your area, your ecosystem, so that whatever plants you plant or take care of can really be a part of um, you know supporting the organisms that should be in your area. So I have to admit, I didn't study botany formally, and so I think if you haven't spent a lot of time with botanic keys, um, some of the keys, like the Peterson guides. The Peterson guides are great, but they might not capture everyone's attention, like say like a color photograph would. And so I found for Indiana, Wildflowers and Ferns of Indiana Forests. Um, he may be retired now or getting there, but Michael Hamoya put this book together, and there's several really great photographers also who worked on this book with him. Anyway, this is a lovely book. It probably will work for you if you are, obviously in Indiana, but Ohio, Kentucky, big parts of Illinois. This book, it has really great photographs. It's arranged by color of the flowers, and obviously there's trees, shrubs, ferns, and then flowering plants. But great color photographs. It's got the scientific name, the typical common names, what type of area it's found in, so whether it's a mesic forest or a floodplain forest, because that helps us place plants that we're thinking about planting into the right places, because that way we can be successful. So anyway, this is a great book. Plus, it tells you little things about each tree, shrub, flowering plant, whatever, that it's like little things that make that plant special and how it fits into our state's ecosystem. So really great book. highly recommend. Let's see where we're going to go next. Okay. Sorry. I absolutely fell in love with this book. This is more just about what it takes to be a scientist and why we should support science, and some of the pitfalls of being a lady scientist. But anyway, Hope Yaren, love, 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 love this book. Her and Adventures with Bill. Everyone should have a Bill. So anyway, highly recommend this book. Get some science in your life. And even, I don't know, this one was, sober. But this is Hope Yaren's second book. I hope I'm saying your name right. The story of more, this book came from a place of, I don't want to do it. You can't make me do it. But anyway, Hope was asked to teach a class on climate change. And, I think a lot of times when, you have your own projects going, and someone asks you to do something, you're like, ah. But anyway, so she was asked to teach a class on climate change. And, this is good. This is really good. Maybe the next book could be the story of less. But anyway, the story of more, highly recommend it. Because maybe it'll, get you to think about how you can make less of an impact on the planet. I know for myself, part of it was, just not wanting to eat meat anymore. But I did choose to, really reduce the amount of meat I eat. I don't eat meat. I do eat dairy. I don't eat fish. That was one thing. Coming up with ways to get around plastic. Just all sorts of stuff like that. So it's a place to start thinking about it. I know a lot of people, in order to take care of trees and plants correctly, this sounds like kind of obvious, but it is true. We need to be able to identify plants correctly in order to, know maybe when the best time is to prune them, what kind of insects might infest them, what kind of diseases they get. And so this was a book that was recommended to me years ago, the Tree Identification Book. I think this is from the 50s. Super, super simple. It's black and white photography, but it gives you, what arborist or horticulturist or botanist would use to take first steps to figure out what something is. So, yeah, it does all the angiosperms, it does all the gymnosperms, and the one thing I don't like about this is it does use a few more common names than I think is good to rely on, because, like in Indiana, there's two plants that one is in northern Indiana, the other is in southern Indiana, and they're both called fireweed. Two totally different plants. So the same thing happens with trees. We have musclewood, ironwood, Blue Beach. It just makes things confusing. So, if you have a chance to use a guide that, uses mostly scientific names, you'll be able to keep things a little straighter. But anyway, this is a really good place to start. As far as like when you're out in the field and you're trying to learn how to figure out what plants are. So then the next one, I think I read these, the same year that I read Hope Yaren's first book. I can't remember if this, I think this is how this is supposed to be. It's not a coffee stain. The Hidden Life of Trees. And I don't speak German very well at all. So I hope I'm not going to butcher the name. Peter Wolleben. Anyway, he's a forester in Germany, and he came up with just some thoughts on forests and how they're managed, and what were forests like before they were managed, and maybe can we find ways that are a little bit more like how they used to be. So anyway, he's had a lot of great success kind of rethinking how forests work, how plants work together, how organisms change an ecosystem. Anyway, so this is great. The Hidden Life of Trees. There's actually, I forget if there's 3 more books or 2 more. It started as a trilogy, but I feel like he wrote another one. Anyway, great books. It changed my mind on how to think about how plants work together. And honestly, so he and Suzanne Simard have a lot in common. I hope I don't start crying. Anyway, this is a remarkably moving book. I don't know. I always get emotional during the time changes, I think. But this was a really moving book for me to read. Anyway, Suzanne Simard came up with the mother tree theory, and even more than that, she proved it. And so, if you were born in the 2000s, you will have had this as a thing your whole life. For people who are older, this is pretty groundbreaking. Figuring out that trees and plants do communicate, and that we're kind of screwing it up. Anyway, really great book, really original thinker. I know a lot of people loved the book The Overstory. If that's what introduced you to forests, great. But take the next step. Read this book. This is the book. Let's see. There's another book. Actually, I did a video about this, seeing trees. I don't know if it was the street tree that kind of has doomed us to actually being able to see trees appropriately. You know, they we just drive past them. We either notice or don't notice that they're doing well or not well. But anyway, Seeing Trees by Nancy Ross Hugo. It's got great photography. It's a place to start with some exercises on how to solve plant blindness. It's hard to solve problems if you don't notice they're there. So understanding, like pollination and flowering and, what makes one tree different from another tree. These are all things that can help you find trees really special. And maybe, in the future, you won't have to drive so far to find a special tree. You might be able to find it on your block or in your yard. Even just street trees, they are a wonderful gift from our communities to, help cool our homes or the places where we live. They help attract wildlife to our lives, if we live in cities. So anyway, that's a great book to help you think about trees. Okay, so another one, I fell in love with this book. I was just cruising the library one day, Growing Trees from Seed. Henry, I think it's pronounced Koch. And anyway, he was I forget if he was a forester in Canada. He came up with the elm recovery program. And anyway, he was all about helping trees and shrubs and whatever, native plants, kind of act like native plants. It sounds silly, but he goes through the steps of how to propagate native trees and shrubs, how they're propagated. Do they need to go through a bird in order to, have that seed be able to germinate? Anyway, it kind of changed my mind on a lot of things about how I see trees and trying to be able to share as many plants as I can with people. I get a lot of acorns in my yard, and obviously I'm feeding the squirrels and the deer and the blue jays, but I do try and share those around. We have some nice trees, so yes, there's more. So this is a great book I got last year. You can get this at a lot of places. You can check it out. This is like it's like a textbook that an arborist would study, but it is so interesting. It's by Edmund Gilman, just called Pruning, 3rd edition, an illustrated guide to pruning. So, just like any science, we learn more things and we need to change our thinking. It used to be, it was recommended to let plants be in the ground for a year after planting, before they were pruned, to let the roots establish and anyway, he did a lot of study and found that really the best time to prune for establishment is like right the minute it's planted. You know, there's a few trees like, you know, where I'm at. Like say if you're doing cherries or anything in the prunus family, I wait to prune those when it's drier in the summer. But almost all trees benefit from being pruned at planting. And he goes through a lot of things about explaining how trees deal with things like wind load, how they grow with each other. And so that is a really great book for explaining all the things to help grow a healthy tree that's not going to have a lot of flaws or things that can make it susceptible to, you know, disease or breakage or whatever. And so kind of the last book I wanted to show you, this is kind of an overall book. This is the Arborist Certification Study Guide. That's what we study, or it's recommended to study if you're going to go through the certification. I thought I'd bring it up because, let's see, I'm trying to think there's a new edition that's come out, and so you might be able to get a copy of the old one for a little cheaper in case someone's updating their library. I think, you know, whether you take care of plants professionally or not, I think understanding how they should be taken care of, so you can hire the right people or do things at the right time, it's important. You know, we want to keep our trees around as long as we can, and we want to have the right things around them. And yeah, so anyway, it's just a little aside, but you might be able to find a copy on a used bookstore about now. So anyway, if you have any questions, you know, like and comment down below. I actually do have more books I can show you, so we'll talk about that some more later. But anyway, happy October, and yeah.